Alright guys, today we are going to be adding bricks that have animations. So whenever we hit them with the ball, they are going to break, and they're actually break apart instead of just disappearing. So it's going to add a little bit, another dimension to our game. So here's what we have. We have score, we have the bricks, the paddle, the time, and we're going to add some animation for the bricks. We also have the animation for the skateboard already added. So let's get started on this. So I'm going to go to pixel art. I have an animation here. I have several different animations ending with the screen with the brick being gone. I could probably add another frame in there with nothing there. That's probably what this frame should be. It should be nothing. But anyway, I have this, and that's what it looks like when it happens. So if you can imagine the ball hitting it and then the brick breaking and being gone. Okay, so I want to go to File and Download, and I want to download all of these frames. Once all of the frames are downloaded, I'm going to want to name them and load them into my folder for Godot. I have that folder right here. Here's the brick folder. Here are these already loaded. Cool. Now we're going to work on this right here in another scene. So I'm going to get rid of this one right here. So what we're going to do is we're going to start a brand new scene. We have the scene here for the main menu. We have the scene for level 1, and now we are going to make a new scene, and this is going to be our brick break scene. So I'm going to add a custom node. This node is going to be the area 2D node. So I'm going to create the area 2D node. And with the area 2D node, we are going to need an animated sprite, because this sprite is going to have some animation. It's going to be the brick animating, and we are also going to need a collision shape. Let's first start with our animation here. So let's go ahead and go over to the right hand side over here, and we are going to add some new sprite frames. I'm going to click, and we need a default frame. So the default frame for us is going to be just brick 0 here. And then we also want to add another frame, and we are going to call this break. I'm going to call it breaking. This is going to be the breaking frames. And for the breaking frames, it is going to be 1, 2, 3, and 4. So it normally sits on the default, and then it goes to breaking should we hit it with the ball. Alright, so hopefully you're following along with that. If it's breaking, we're going to do the breaking function. Now we want the animation to stay on the default, so it's just going to default to the brick that looks like that. Okay, now I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, because I want my bricks to be a little bit bigger, and we can adjust this too later. So there's our brick. We need to add a collision shape to this area 2D. So we're going to go to collision shape, and we are going to do a 2D rectangle, which is over here on the side. I'm going to stretch it. I need to turn off my snapping. I had snapping on, so I turned my snapping off. And now I'm stretching the shape over the top of the brick, and I think that looks good. I'm going to go ahead and hide this collision shape. Now, what's going to need to happen is we are going to have something that tells this to actually run, and that's going to be some code here. So we need to add a script. So here we go. We're going to add the script. And if you go to Neo, you can find your code for this script right here. Area 2D brick break animation. So I'm going to click this, and I'm going to copy this code, and we'll go over it right quick, and we're going to see that there's some things here that we don't have that we need to add. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to fix this silly spacing that comes from copy pasting. And then we're going to take a look at this stuff. See if we're missing something. And see what we got here that's new that we can look at and learn from. Okay, so first off I see a timer timeout function. So that means this guy over here is going to need a timer. So I am going to go back to my scene and I'm going to add a timer node. Here's our timer node. Now, even though this right here says that it has the timer timeout function already in it, this does not yet work until we connect this timer to our area 2D. So we are going to connect this. We're going to go to node timeout connect node signals timeout and then connect it to the area 2D. Now our timer is actually connected to the timer node. So here we go. Here we have this, and we can double check and verify that that's true by going to signals and seeing that yes, it actually is connected. So now this function will actually work. Let's see what else we have to have in here. So let's see. We have a hit variable equals false. So this is called a Boolean. This can be either true or false. Boolean value. So it can be either true or false. And so right now we're going to say it starts out in the false state, meaning it has not been hit yet. Right here on lines 5 and 6, when the code first starts up, when it first initializes, it's going to set the timer to 0.8 seconds. So that means after it, when the timer gets triggered, it's only going to wait 0.8 seconds before it destroys itself. So right here, that's where this goes. Now it says variable bodies, get overlapping bodies. Okay, so for body in bodies. Okay, so it's looking to see, is one of those things the ball? If it is the ball, we want to start the timer. Okay, so that means it's going to jump us down here and it's going to start the timer, and then it's going to play the break function. Now I changed this to the break animation. So if we'll look at our animation, this says breaking. So I want to make sure that this is also the same. So I'm going to put breaking, and then it's going to say if hit is equal to false, it is going to get the node level 1 and it's going to add 5 points to it. So, and then it's going to set hit to true. So that basically is going to make it where it can only get hit one time. So it can only add 5 points to the score one time. So if for some reason it hits it multiple times before it's done breaking, it is not going to be able to give multiple points. It's only going to do this one time. So alright, so let's save what we have here. We're going to do Control S, and this is going to be our break no, let's do animated brick animation. So we have our brick animation, and that saved this whole thing as a scene. This whole guy here is its own scene. So now if we go down and look in our main part here, we have our new brick animation scene. So how do we put this inside of our level 1? Well, this is really simple. There's an icon that we have not used yet. It's this little link, and it says instance a scene as a node. Cool. So I am going to select the bricks because this scene is a brick and I want to store it in the bricks scene. So I am going to go here and I'm going to instance, and I'm looking for the brick animation. So I'm going to open this, and I'm going to pull this little brick and I'm going to put it right there, and we're going to test it and see if this works and what happens with this. So there it is. We're going to hit this button to play the scene and see if we get the result. Nope, we crashed. Let's see, why did we crash? It says sprite play breaking. Let's go look over here. Okay, we need to rename sprite, animated sprite, to sprite. So let me change this to sprite and let's see if that works. Hopefully that works and I won't have to. There it goes. Okay, so that worked, but there's only one problem here. Whenever the ball goes through, whenever the ball hits it, it doesn't actually bounce off of it. It just goes through it and breaks it, and then it's gone. Plus, our animation time is off just a little bit here. So there's a couple things that we need to do to fix this. We're going to come back to our brick animation, and we are going to shrink the brick a little bit because it looked like it was too big to me, so I'm going to shrink it down just a little bit. And you're going to notice that any change that you make here is also going to make that same change here. So when you resize it in this scene, it's also going to resize it over here in your main scene. So that's still a little bit too big for me, so I'm going to shrink it down a little more, and I'm going to save it. Go back, looking closer, I'm going to do it a little bit more. Save. Brick looks a little too small, so a little bigger. Okay, this should do it. I'm trying to be too picky here. Okay, so the problem is when the ball gets in the area, it goes straight through it. It doesn't actually collide with it. That's because area 2D nodes they're basically always ghosts. Things can always go through them. It's just an area. So we are going to give this some solid shape. I'm going to add a static body onto this guy, and I am going to add just a collision shape. I don't need a picture for this. I'm just going to add a collision shape because we know that these static bodies, they can have something bounce off of it. So the collision shapes on them are going to make things bounce off. So I'm going to add a 2D rectangle here, and I'm going to fill in the shape. Now you don't want to make this too big because then it'll never touch the area 2D. So we're going to keep it just a little bit smaller than the brick so we know that it's going to hit it. And let's save this scene, Control S, and then play and see, does this break the brick? Yes, and the brick breaks off, and the brick actually breaks all the way. Cool. Now we just need to work on our timing just a little bit. So I can come back over here and I can adjust. I'm going to get rid of that. I'm hiding the shape, so that's good. I'm also going to lock all these little things together so they don't come apart. Now I'm going to go back to my level 1 and I am going to copy this area 2D several times. I could probably also call this brick instead of I could call it brick because I know it's an animated brick. So I have an animated brick. I'm going to do Control D, and now I am going to have some more bricks. That collision shape is still not hidden. I'm just going to hide it all the way. Control S, and okay, there we go. Now I am going to just add some more of these animated bricks in here, and we are going to work on the timing for this so we can see how can we get this to make it look right whenever it gets collided into by that ball. We want the animation, we want the brick to disappear as soon as it gets, or at the end of the animation. I'm sure there's other ways to do it, but what we're going to do is we're going to just adjust our timer timeout function. And here we go. Play. Start game. That was very strange. Let's try that again. Let's do this one right here. That guy is destroying itself way before it gets in the range. Oh, I bet you our area 2D is still big. So let's take a look at that. I guarantee you that's what it is. Let's look at this area 2D. Look how big that is. Okay, so you saw the error I just made. We got to make sure that you guys don't make the same mistake. So I'm going to go to the collision shape on the area 2D, and I am just going to put it closer to the size of the brick. And this is going to fix this issue. Okay, cool. Control S. Let's go back to our level 1 and let's play again. Okay, so the brick is still kind of flashing at the very end there. Now what we could do is we could add extra frames that are blank, and then it would stay gone, or we could adjust the time on our timer. So let's go to the brick and let's adjust our time. Now what we could do is we could make this a variable and export it, but I'm just gonna, you know what, let's do that. Let's do export time 1, and this is going to be a float. So I'm going to export time 1 as a float. Is it going to let me do that? Can I export it as a variable? I could export it as a variable. I should be able to. Let's do time 1 is equal to 0.0. Well, let me do that. Can I not export a variable, or can I not export a float? Well, it looks like we can't export a float, so we're just going to have to stick with adjusting this. So let's just adjust this down to 0.7, and let's try again. See what this animation looks like. Oops, I hit the wrong button. That's better. So 0.7 was the one we actually needed to do. So 0.7 makes the brick just disappear. Sorry I didn't get the export value to show you guys, but I think we have a working animation. So if your animation's a little bit longer, you're going to want to adjust your wait time. So just to go over what's actually taking place is we're going through an area 2D. It's gonna that area 2D is gonna trigger the animation on the brick, and then the collision shape from the static body that's on the inside of the brick is going to cause you to bounce off of it. We don't have to add this to the bricks group because we took care of our score right here. And we also this time we checked to see if the ball hit it. So you're going to need to make sure that this variable is the same as your ball, which is up here for me, ball. So if yours is a lowercase b, you're going to need to make sure that your brick has a lowercase b. Alright, you guys have a good day, and I'll see you later.